Let me begin with the first type of people you must never trust in life, those who talk sweet but act selfish. You see, in life, words are very powerful. Words can inspire you, comfort you, motivate you, and sometimes even heal you. But words can also become the most dangerous tool when they are not supported by action. There are people who know exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. Their language is soft, their tone is polite, their promises are beautiful, but their actions tell a completely different story. These people will praise you in front of you and use you behind your back. They will say, I am always there for you, but when you truly need them, suddenly they are busy, unavailable, or silent. They will speak about values, loyalty, and friendship, but when a situation comes where they have to sacrifice even a little bit of comfort for you, they disappear. This is not a coincidence. This is character. In life, never judge people by how they speak in emotional moments. Judge them by how they behave when emotions are gone. Anyone can speak sweetly when they want something from you. Attention, support, validation, or advantage. Sweet words cost nothing, but sincere actions cost effort, time, and sometimes sacrifice. That is where the truth is revealed. Such people are experts at creating illusions. They make you feel special with compliments. They make you feel important with big promises. They make you feel secure with reassuring sentences. But slowly, very slowly, you start noticing a pattern. Whenever there is a benefit for them, they are active. Whenever the situation requires them to give, to stand up, or to take responsibility, they step back. And then they give explanations, not solutions. Remember this deeply. Selfish people don't say no directly. They say yes verbally and no through behavior. And because you trust words more than actions, you keep waiting, you keep hoping, you keep adjusting, and in the process, you start doubting yourself instead of questioning them. This is where emotional damage begins. You start thinking, maybe I am expecting too much. Maybe I am being sensitive. Maybe I should be more understanding. But let me tell you something very clearly. Expecting consistency is not demanding, it is healthy. Expecting alignment between words and actions is not wrong, it is basic respect. People who talk sweet but act selfish often survive because good-hearted people give them unlimited chances. They know you will forgive, they know you will understand, they know you will adjust, and they misuse that goodness. Not because you are weak, but because they lack integrity. As Gaur Gopal often explains in his calm wisdom, character is not what someone shows in comfort. Character is what someone reveals in commitment. When someone truly cares, you don't have to chase them for effort. You don't have to remind them of their promises. You don't have to decode their intentions. Clarity is natural where honesty exists. Another important thing to understand is these sweet talkers are very dangerous during your vulnerable phases. When you are low, confused, or emotionally weak, their words feel like support. But once you become stable, confident, or independent, their interest reduces. Why? Because selfish people are attracted to need, not to growth. They want importance without responsibility and connection without contribution. Also notice how such people behave when you succeed. They will congratulate you loudly, but support you silently. They enjoy being associated with your success, but they were missing during your struggle. Sweet words during success are cheap applause. Real trust is built during difficult times. Life teaches us again and again. Listen less to what people say and watch more what they do repeatedly. One mistake can be forgiven. One delay can be understood. But a pattern should never be ignored. Patterns are messages. And when words and actions don't match, always believe the actions. This does not mean you become bitter or rude. It means you become wise. You don't fight, you don't argue, you don't try to change them. You simply reduce emotional investment. You stop expecting depth from shallow behavior. You stop trusting promises that have no history of fulfillment. Protecting your heart is not selfish. Protecting your energy is not arrogance. It is self-respect. Trust is precious. Give it to people whose actions speak even when they are silent. Because at the end of the day, sweet words may touch your ears, but only sincere actions touch your life. Now let us talk about the second type of people you must never trust in life. The ones who remember you only when they need help. These people may not appear harmful at first. In fact, they often come across as friendly, warm, and familiar. They know your name, they remember your number, and they suddenly become very active in your life. But only when there is a problem they want you to solve or a benefit they want to receive. Have you noticed this pattern? Months can pass without a message, without a call, without a single concern about your well-being. But the moment they are stuck, the moment they are confused, the moment they need support, advice, money, connections, or emotional strength, suddenly your phone rings. And they speak as if no distance ever existed, as if silence never happened, as if effort was always equal. At first, you may feel important. You may feel needed. You may even feel valued. And because you are kind-hearted, you respond. You help. You give your time. You offer your energy. But slowly, something inside you starts feeling empty. Because once their problem is solved, once their need is fulfilled, once they are back on their feet, they disappear again. No gratitude, no follow-up, no presence. This is where awareness becomes crucial. A genuine relationship is not based on convenience. It is based on connection. When someone truly cares, they don't treat you like a service center that opens only during emergencies. They don't vanish when things are good. They stay present in ordinary days, not just desperate moments. People who only contact you when they need help often confuse access with relationship. They believe that because you are kind, you will always be available. They rely on your empathy without respecting your boundaries. And over time, this creates emotional imbalance. You give more, they take more. And you slowly feel drained, unappreciated, and invisible. One painful truth we must accept is this: some people don't miss you. They miss what you do for them. They miss your solutions, not your presence. They miss your support, not your soul. And when you realize this, it hurts. Because you thought the bond was mutual, but for them it was functional. This is where many good people suffer. They think, maybe they are busy. Maybe they are struggling. Maybe they will be there for me when I need them. But reality teaches us that behavior rarely changes without awareness. Someone who disappears during calm times will almost always disappear during your difficult times too. As Gaur Gopal often explains with simplicity, relationships are not about how loudly someone calls you in crisis, but how gently they walk with you in everyday life. Consistency is love in action, presence is respect in motion. Another sign of such people is how conversations revolve around them. When they call, they speak. When you speak, they hurry. When they need emotional support, they expect patience. When you need the same, they are distracted. This imbalance slowly teaches you a dangerous habit, suppressing your own needs. And let me tell you something important. Always being the helper does not make you strong. Sometimes it makes you exploited. True strength lies in knowing when to help and when to step back. Saying no to one-sided relationships is not cruelty, it is clarity. Also observe what happens when you stop helping for once. Not forever, just once. See how quickly the communication fades. See how excuses replace warmth. See how silence replaces friendship. That moment may feel painful, but it is also revealing. It shows you the truth you were avoiding. Life is too short to be surrounded by people who only show up to collect, never to contribute. You deserve relationships where care flows both ways, where checking on you doesn't require a crisis, where your presence is valued even when you are not solving a problem. This does not mean you stop helping people. Help is a beautiful quality, but help with awareness, help without attachment, help without expectation of loyalty from those who have shown you none. Protect your time, protect your energy, protect your emotional availability, because the right people will reach out to you not just when they fall, but also to ask, "Are you okay?" And that, my friend, is the difference between being needed and being valued. Now let us move to the third type of people you must never trust in life: those who secretly enjoy your failure. These people are the most dangerous, not because they openly wish you harm, but because they hide their true feelings behind smiles, polite words, and false encouragement. On the surface, they look supportive, they clap when you succeed, they say, "I'm happy for you," but deep inside, something feels heavy when you move forward. Something in them becomes uncomfortable when you grow. You must understand this carefully. Not everyone who stands next to you wants to see you rise. Some people want you close, but never ahead. They are comfortable with your presence only as long as your success does not challenge their self-image. The moment you start improving, achieving, or becoming confident, their behavior subtly changes. The excitement fades, the encouragement becomes forced, the silence becomes louder. These people may never openly criticize you. Instead, they use indirect reactions. They downplay your achievements. They change the topic quickly. They respond with, "It's not a big deal," or "Anyone could do that," or "Let's see how long it lasts." And sometimes they say nothing at all. Silence in such moments speaks volumes. What makes this especially painful is that you often sense it, but choose to ignore it. You tell yourself, "Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe they're just tired. Maybe they're having a bad day." And because you are emotionally mature, you give them the benefit of doubt. But remember this: intuition is not imagination. When energy changes, it changes for a reason. People who secretly enjoy your failure often compare themselves with you. Your growth becomes a mirror they don't want to look into. Instead of working on themselves, they feel relief when you fall. Not because they hate you, but because your failure comforts their insecurity. It makes them feel safe in their own stagnation. One of the most telling signs is how they behave when you struggle. They listen with unusual interest. They ask many questions. They remember details. They appear deeply engaged. But notice, the empathy feels different. It lacks warmth. It feels more like curiosity than concern. Because for them, your pain validates their position. As Gaur Gopal Das often explains in his gentle wisdom, true friends don't compete with your happiness, they celebrate it. Anyone who feels threatened by your growth is not aligned with your journey. Growth requires space, and jealousy silently poisons that space. These people also give advice that sounds practical but limits you. They say things like, be realistic, don't aim too high, you're fine where you are, or why take unnecessary risks? On the surface, it sounds caring, but deep down, it is fear, their fear, disguised as concern. They don't want you to fail, but they also don't want you to fly. And here is a very important truth. When you start doubting yourself after talking to someone, pay attention. Supportive people make you feel lighter, clearer, and stronger. The wrong people leave you confused, smaller, and uncertain. If someone consistently drains your confidence, that is not honesty, that is insecurity being transferred. Another painful realization comes when you notice how such people talk about others' success. If they constantly criticize people who are doing well, mock ambition, or find faults in achievers, understand this clearly. One day, when you grow, you will be discussed the same way in your absence. The hardest part is accepting that these people may be close to you, friends, colleagues, sometimes even family. That is why discernment is essential. You don't confront them, you don't accuse them. You simply observe, accept, and adjust the distance. You don't need to announce your dreams to everyone. You don't need validation from those who feel threatened by your progress. Protect your plans, protect your momentum, protect your peace. Because negativity does not always come as criticism. Sometimes it comes as cold encouragement. This does not mean you become suspicious of everyone. It means you become selective. You share your wins with those whose eyes light up genuinely. You share your struggles with those who don't secretly feel relieved by them. Life will introduce you to many people. Some will push you forward, some will pull you back, and some will smile while hoping you stay exactly where you are. Your responsibility is not to change them, but to recognize them. Because the truth is simple. The right people want to see you grow, even if it means outgrowing them. And anyone who enjoys your failure, even silently, does not deserve a front row seat in your life. Now let us reflect on the fourth type of people you must never trust in life, those who gossip with you about others. At first, they may seem entertaining, informative, even friendly. Conversations with them feel lively. They always have stories, updates, and inside information about people you both know. They speak in low voices, lean closer, and say things like, I'm telling you this because I trust you, or don't tell anyone, but. And without realizing it, you feel included, you feel special, you feel chosen. But what feels like connection in the beginning is actually a silent trap. Gossip is not just talking about people. Gossip is talking about people in a way that would change if they were present. And anyone who does that with you will eventually do that about you. This is not negativity, this is a pattern of behavior. If someone builds bonding through breaking others, that bond is fragile and unsafe. The most dangerous part of gossip is that it disguises itself as concern. They don't say, I'm enjoying this. They say, I'm worried about them. They don't say, I like drama. They say, you should know the truth. But ask yourself honestly, if their intention was truly concern, why is there excitement in their voice? Why is there detail beyond necessity? Why does the conversation continue even after the point is made? People who gossip often feel powerful by controlling narratives. They feel important because they know things, and by sharing information, they gain temporary closeness. But that closeness is built on instability. Today it's someone else's story. Tomorrow it becomes yours. Many people fall into this trap because gossip creates a false sense of loyalty. You start believing, at least they're honest with me. But honesty without integrity is manipulation. Real honesty does not require tearing others down. Real connection does not require secret discussions. As Gaur Gopal Das often reminds us gently, a clean heart speaks clean words. When someone constantly focuses on others' flaws, it reveals more about their inner world than the people they are talking about. A peaceful mind does not seek entertainment in other people's problems. Another important thing to observe is this: gossipers rarely speak about solutions. They speak about situations. They rarely encourage growth. They encourage judgment. And slowly, without noticing, your mindset begins to shift. You start seeing people through suspicion. You start questioning intentions. You start feeling unsafe emotionally. Because if everyone is being discussed, then no one is truly trusted. And deep down, a quiet fear begins to grow. What do they say about me when I'm not around? That fear itself is a signal. Healthy relationships don't create anxiety. They create security. People who gossip also avoid accountability. When confronted, they say, I was just sharing, or everyone knows this, or I didn't mean it in a bad way. But intention does not erase impact. Repeated gossip slowly damages trust, not only between people, but within yourself. You begin to doubt your own participation. You feel uncomfortable, yet you stay silent to avoid awkwardness. Let me tell you something very clearly. Staying silent during gossip does not make you neutral. It makes you a safe audience. And gossipers thrive on audiences. Another truth is this: gossipers are rarely at peace. They are constantly watching others, comparing lives, tracking failures, and waiting for news. They are externally busy but internally empty. And instead of filling that emptiness with self-growth, they fill it with other people's stories. Distance from such people does not mean arrogance. It means emotional hygiene. Just as you protect your body from unhealthy food, you must protect your mind from unhealthy conversations. You don't have to confront aggressively. You don't have to lecture. You simply change the subject. You reduce engagement. You stop feeding the behavior. Notice how people react when you refuse to gossip. Some feel uncomfortable. Some lose interest. Some slowly fade away. And that is okay, because anyone who only connects through negativity was never aligned with your peace. Also understand this: when someone speaks badly about others to gain closeness with you, they are showing you the foundation of their character. And foundations don't change easily. Trust built on gossip will collapse under pressure. Life becomes lighter when your conversations are clean, when your words don't need explanation, when your silence doesn't hide guilt. Choose people who speak with respect, even about those who are absent. Choose environments where growth is discussed more than flaws. Because in the end, people who gossip don't just spread stories, they spread insecurity. And trusting them with your thoughts, your struggles, or your truth is like leaving your diary in an open marketplace. Protect your dignity by protecting your words. And remember, the safest relationships are built not on shared secrets, but on shared values. Now let us understand the fifth type of people you must never trust in life: those who repeatedly break promises. At first, this may seem like a small issue. Everyone forgets sometimes, everyone gets busy, everyone makes mistakes. And because you are understanding, you excuse them. Once, twice, maybe even many times. But what you must realize is this: a broken promise is not always about circumstances. Very often, it is about priorities. Promises are not measured by how beautifully they are spoken, but by how seriously they are kept. When someone promises you something and fails to follow through again and again, they are quietly telling you where you stand in their life. And that truth hurts, especially when their words made you believe otherwise. People who habitually break promises often sound sincere. They say things like, "I really meant it," "I'll do it for sure next time," "I didn't forget you, I just got caught up," or "you know I care." And you want to believe them because believing feels easier than accepting disappointment. But patterns don't lie. Intentions that never turn into actions lose their meaning. At first, the damage is small. You wait a little longer. You adjust your schedule. You make backup plans. Slowly, the damage grows. You stop relying on them. Then you stop expecting from them. And finally, you stop trusting them. By the time trust is gone, the relationship is already weakened, even if nothing dramatic ever happened. What makes this especially painful is that promise breakers rarely see themselves as unreliable. In their mind, they are still good people who just had bad timing. But reliability is not about being good-hearted. It is about being dependable. Love without dependability creates insecurity. Friendship without consistency creates confusion. As Gaur Gopal often explains with clarity, trust is built when words and actions walk together. When they walk in opposite directions, confusion is inevitable. A person's character is revealed not in grand commitments, but in small follow-throughs. Another important thing to notice is how such people react when you express disappointment. Instead of taking responsibility, they become defensive. They say you are overreacting. They say you are too emotional. They say you should be more flexible. Slowly, the focus shifts from their broken promise to your reaction. And without realizing it, you start feeling guilty for expecting what was promised. This is where self-respect comes into play. Expecting someone to keep their word is not pressure. It is not control. It is not unreasonable. It is basic human respect. When someone values you, they respect your time, your trust, and your emotional investment. People who constantly break promises also create instability. You can never plan properly with them. You can never relax in certainty. You are always in a state of "let's see." And living in that uncertainty is emotionally exhausting. Stability in relationships comes from knowing that words have weight. Sometimes, promise breakers are not malicious, they are careless. But carelessness repeated over time causes as much damage as intention. Whether it is forgetting to call, failing to show up, delaying commitments, or ignoring responsibilities, the result is the same: erosion of trust. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning to stop believing potential and start believing patterns. You may see goodness in them, you may see sincerity in their eyes, but trust is not built on hope, it is built on history. And history speaks louder than apologies. This does not mean you confront angrily or cut people off immediately. It means you adjust your expectations. You stop depending on unreliable people for important things. You stop placing emotional weight on unstable commitments. You protect yourself not by closing your heart, but by opening your eyes. Also remember this: when someone truly respects you, they don't need reminders to keep their word. They remember because it matters. They show up because you matter. Effort is not forced where care is genuine. Life becomes lighter when you surround yourself with people whose yes means yes and whose no is honest. At least honesty gives clarity. Broken promises give confusion. You deserve relationships where trust does not require constant forgiveness, where words are not decoration but direction, and where commitments are not habits of speech but acts of character. Because in the end, people may forget what was said, but your heart never forgets how many times it waited and how many times it was let down. Now let us reflect deeply on the sixth type of people you must never trust in life: those who do not respect your boundaries. This type is especially confusing because on the surface, they may appear caring, involved, even loving. They call frequently. They ask questions. They want to know everything about your life. And in the beginning, it feels like attention. It feels like concern. It feels like closeness. But slowly, very slowly, you begin to feel suffocated instead of supported. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are lines that define where you end and others begin. They protect your time, your energy, your emotions, and your identity. When someone truly respects you, they respect these lines even when it is inconvenient for them. When someone repeatedly crosses them, it is not love, it is control disguised as care. People who don't respect boundaries often react badly when you say no. They become offended, they become cold. They accuse you of changing. They say things like, "You weren't like this before," or "I'm only saying this for your good," or "After everything I've done for you." In that moment, your boundary is treated like betrayal. This is where many good people get trapped. Because you don't want to hurt anyone, you don't want to seem rude, you don't want conflict. So you explain yourself again and again. You justify your limits. You soften your no until it sounds like a maybe. And slowly, you abandon your own comfort to protect someone else's expectations. But here is a powerful truth you must remember. People who get angry at your boundaries were benefiting from your lack of them. Lack of boundaries creates emotional exhaustion. You are always available, always adjusting, always compromising, and yet you feel unseen. Because your needs are never prioritized, your time is taken for granted. Your emotional space is invaded. And over time, this leads to resentment, not because you are unkind, but because you are human. People who disrespect boundaries often believe access equals entitlement. They think closeness gives them permission to control your choices, your schedule, your decisions, even your emotions. They may comment on how you live, what you choose, who you talk to, and what you should tolerate. And when you resist, they say you are being selfish. But protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary. As Gaur Gopal often explains with calm clarity, a healthy relationship does not require you to lose yourself. Love does not demand that you shrink, bend, or constantly sacrifice your well-being. True care creates safety, not pressure. Another important sign of boundary disrespect is guilt manipulation. When you try to take space, they make you feel bad. When you prioritize yourself, they remind you of your past mistakes. When you choose differently, they question your loyalty. Slowly, you begin to associate self-care with guilt, and that is emotionally dangerous. Boundaries also reveal maturity. Emotionally mature people may not always agree with your limits, but they respect them. Emotionally immature people see limits as rejection, and instead of adjusting, they push harder. It is important to understand that boundaries are not something you explain endlessly. They are something you enforce consistently. You don't need permission to protect your time. You don't need validation to take rest. You don't need approval to say no to what drains you. And here is a difficult but freeing realization. Someone who truly values you will not need access to every part of you to feel secure. They will trust your independence. They will honor your space. They will understand that love and freedom can exist together. People who cross boundaries often say, "This is just how I am," but character is not an excuse for harm. Comfort is not an excuse for disrespect. And familiarity is not a license to ignore your limits. Setting boundaries may initially feel uncomfortable. Some people may leave, some may criticize, some may try to test you. But those who remain and adjust are the ones worth keeping close, because they see you not as something to possess, but as someone to respect. You don't need to announce boundaries loudly. You live them quietly, through consistency, through firmness, through self-respect. Life becomes lighter when you stop explaining why your peace matters, when you stop apologizing for needing space, when you stop shrinking to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Because at the end of the day, the people who truly care about you will never make you feel guilty for protecting your well-being. And anyone who repeatedly crosses your boundaries is not testing your patience. They are testing how much of yourself you are willing to lose. Choose wisely, protect gently, and remember, your boundaries are not barriers to love, they are the foundation of it.